Welcome everybody to another of TTA's summer sessions. Today we're welcoming Katie Stone, who's joining us, and she's going to be talking about your first outsource. Afterwards, there will be time for some questions as always, but for now, I'll pass over to Katie. Katie, I think you're on mute. Sorry.
It never stops that. It doesn't matter what I'm in, whether I'm on Teams or Zoom or Google Meet. Inevitably, I will mute myself so that people don't have to listen to me sipping on a brew and then forget. And then, you know, a huge diatribe happens and everyone's just like, no, Katie, no. Hi, guys. It's really nice to see loads of you here. I see Verity, I see Georgina. I've seen about 1 billion other people come in as well. It's lovely to have you all here. Some of you I know are already outsourcing. Some of you, I don't know whether you're outsourcing or not. So let's get going. We will try to bring this in on time. I am notorious for not bringing things on time because I'm dreadful at just gibbering and jabbering. So what will probably happen is we'll start out nice and slow, and then at some point I'll look down, recognize the time, start panicking, and we'll go faster so that we will have time for questions at the end. So just to introduce myself to you very, very briefly, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Katie Stone. I used to be a primary school teacher. Nowadays, I own, you could probably call it an agency now. I think there's 8 of us on the team. All of us are ex-teachers, and we help education business owners with their day-to-day sort of business admin needs so that they've got time to focus on what makes their own business special rather than trying to do the dross behind the scenes. What I do as the founder is not only working with my own clients, but also meeting and chatting to potential new clients who are looking for help, and matching them with, sometimes it's a VA on my staff. Sometimes I'll meet somebody and realize that we're not the right person for them, and I'll match them with somebody else who I know who I think would be the right match. In general, my job is to make sure that people find their unicorns quickly and don't have to do too much of the messing about. A lot of the people I know, like I decided really early on that I wanted to be an education business focused virtual assistant, and I don't know that there are any other ones out there particularly. Mainly maybe because it's a bit of a silly niche to go into, but I stopped teaching. I crashed out of teaching many years ago, 6 years ago now, with stress and anxiety and all that. It's the usual story, but I never stopped being passionate about education and thinking that it's the most important thing in the world. And this way I get to talk to loads of people and help loads of people who are out there in the education world. So I still feel like I'm contributing in that way and that what I'm doing is important. So that's great for me. And obviously as part of that, I meet loads of tutors who are at the stage where their admin is becoming overwhelming. Often they know that if they're going to grow their business, they need some help to do it, but they don't know what kind of help they need or how to go about it. So because the name of this talk is Your First Outsource, I've tried to keep it as broad as I possibly can. But the fact is that I know about virtual assistants, and so inevitably it's going to swing that way. But I do want you to understand that a VA is only one of the potential options for you as an outsource. There are many freelancers out there, and it might be that a VA is not the person who you need at this particular point in time. So just before we get going, I was wondering how many of you in here have never outsourced and are at that stage? I have got the chat open. I can see. Oh, hands up. I like that. That's good. Danielle, are you as well? Perfect. Okay, good. Yay. All right. It's a really hard place to be at. It is really hard, especially when you've never done it before, because you don't know what to do or where to start. It's like, and I know that, like, we all know as educators that growth is uncomfortable. We all know that it feels hard and that we can be resistant to growth in many ways. But it is important to do. And we all tell ourselves these stories about why we shouldn't do this next uncomfortable thing, like outsourcing, growing the team, whatever that might be. My own personal story about my first outsource is not to a VA. I still don't have a VA. I have a social media manager, but not a VA. My first ever outsource was to a cleaner. I am, without a doubt, the world's worst cleaner. I don't enjoy doing it. I procrastinate, therefore, so the cleaning doesn't get done. When I do get round to doing the cleaning, I'm grumpy about doing the cleaning. So we all have a rubbish time because Katie is shouting and grumping and, you know, finding things under beds and screaming and shouting that this thing was under the bed. And like, it's not a fun time for anybody. But I told myself so many stories about why I shouldn't be outsourcing this. Like, I told myself that it's just cleaning and I should be able to do it, and I can do it. So why should I be paying somebody else to do it? I told myself it was going to be expensive and therefore we shouldn't do it. I told myself that people were going to think I was getting too big for my boots if I was, you know, outsourcing to a cleaner, and think that I would sort of thought I was better than I was. It made me feel anxious. It made me feel nervous. And worst of all, I had no idea of where to go to ask for help. And so even reaching out to somebody was a huge step for me. And it took me a really long time. In the end, I asked a few friends, I asked a few mummies at the school gate, reached out to a few freelancers. We did have a few trials. I set up with a company who were very nice, but the cleaners they sent out weren't particularly good. And in the end, I ended up with Sarah Jane. And Sarah Jane is my angel. I cannot, when we think about cutting back in our household, like Sarah Jane's name often comes up on the list, and it never ends up being one of the things that get cut, because Sarah Jane gives me much more than a clean house. Like when we get to go out on a Saturday morning now, instead of cleaning the house, we all go out. The kids go and play tennis down on the tennis courts if it's nice enough, and then we all go to Bill's, which is a cafe in Ludlow, and have a great time. Like, that's a much nicer Saturday to me than mummy running around the house being all grumpy, trying to vacuum things, not doing it very well, and shouting at everyone. The kids do a dance when they get home because Sarah Jane has been. We call it the Sarah Jane dance. There are so many benefits to me, to my first outsource. So I'm hoping that what we can do here today is to help you to take that first step, and just enjoy having somebody to partner with you in your business, to share with you in your business, to be passionate about your business like you are. So I'm sure lots of you have got a similar story about an outsource that you've done in the past. And I'm sure that many of you right now who put your hands up before are finding yourself in a similar situation of knowing that something needs to change, but not knowing how to start. You're drowning in the admin work. You're feeling like you're constantly on the brink of burnout. It's not why you started this business in the first place. Like, possibly you're feeling like paralyzed by the fear of losing control and letting go in that way. I definitely had that issue, by the way, not so much about cleaning, but with other things. Control is often a large issue for me. So hopefully this presentation will help, but in any case, just know that you're not alone. Like, it's the same for everyone. So my son is an enormous geek, and I was doing this presentation the other night, and he made me do this. I hope that you enjoy it, and I hope that the little gifts on it don't annoy you too much. But I kind of love it. Right, we're going to go through gaming levels and level you up on doing your outsourcing. So the very first job you need to do is to work out why you're going to be outsourced. Oh, I'm so glad, Greg. Thank you. I really love them too, but I'm aware that not everybody enjoys that kind of thing. Let's think about why you need to outsource. Like, pop the things in the chat that you're thinking of at the moment. Like, why are you thinking that you might need to outsource in the first place? What's going on in your business that's making you think this isn't right? Something needs to change. Giving you a clue while you're thinking, like, often with tutors who I talk to on discovery calls, things will be like, yeah, like teaching delivery is a big one. Like, people resent having to spend half a day invoicing when they could be spending that half a day actually tutoring. Like, that's always nice. A lack of time and knowledge is huge. Like, all of these things. And oh my God, Lynn, like, send your husband to me. I will convince him. It's the best thing I've ever done in my life. Like, often, if you're by yourself in your business, it's because you've reached capacity, because you, like me, sell time for money, essentially. I mean, obviously you're selling your teaching skills and other beautiful things like that. But in essentials, the way that we start out tutoring is the way that I sell my time. Like, here is like a period of time and you pay me this much money for that period of time. And because there are only 24 hours in the day, that's how much time you've got to sell. And so until we move into this sort of one-to-many model, that can be really hard. And it can feel like you can feel really resentful of the fact that some of that time has to be given up in order for you to go and do the boring invoicing, and then chasing the invoicing, and then somebody emails you and you've got to follow them up, and then you've got to do the marketing, and you've got to, oh God, I don't know. There are so many things that you could do. And when you're taking on a team, when you've got a team of tutors, I'm sorry to tell you this, but it only gets worse, because now you're at capacity, but because you have a team of tutors, you got to do all their admin as well, because one of the delights of being an associate tutor is you don't have to do the marketing. You don't have to do the invoicing. You don't have to do the admin, because your lead tutor does it all for you. And so I find tutors on teams who weren't able to set up systems and processes at the start of their journey. And that means it can often feel like you are running in front of a train and like laying out the track in front of it as it's coming. The train is never stopping. So there's never time to just stop and breathe and go, right, let me just set this up as it goes. It doesn't work like that. You have to just keep on doing it. And that's a big reason why in star number 2, why you aren't doing it already, is because you haven't got time. You haven't got time to go and find somebody to outsource to, because the train is oncoming and you are frantically throwing the track out in front of it. There's no time to do anything else. Often with solo business owners, I find as well, control can be a big issue. I have definitely felt this feeling before. Like, what if they don't do it as well as me? What if they don't do it the same as me? Like, how will I know that they're doing it well? Like, all of those sort of those worries in the background. And if you have outsourced before and you've had a bad experience, then that can be even more paralyzing, because you know what can go wrong as well. I think sometimes, like, I talk to people who get very ashamed of turning up to discovery call and showing me that they have no systems in place. I've spoken to somebody who, I think their tutor, like, they've got about like just under 100 kids on their books, and they're still working out of a notebook. It's fine, but it can feel quite like sharing that with somebody else can feel hard, really hard. And perhaps you don't know where to start. Perhaps you feel like, because you can do this stuff, you can issue the invoices, you can chase this stuff up. Maybe there's a point of resistance there about paying somebody to do something that you can already do yourself. It's a hard thing to know, but I would say it's something that's really worth, like, if you can find your resistance points, if you can find those reasons why you're not currently outsourcing, like what has stopped you in the past, what is stopping you now, it can help you to reframe those thoughts further on. Now, one of the things that I haven't told you about is this QR code. Now, there is a link there to a workbook. I will hurriedly, because I'm an idiot and didn't do this before, go and grab the share link out of my Google Drive as well, which would have been much more sensible, because on a phone, it's not as easy to copy. Oh, here it is. What this is just, it's literally just a Google Doc that you can copy and work into if you want. You can work through it with me now if you want. You can take it away and come to the recording. But if I just find the little link, so then those of you who are working on desktop have got a better chance. Here we go. And if I take out that little edit thing and write copy in the chat, that should then take you straight to the copy version of that, so that you can copy it out and you're not working in mine, which would be bad. All right, so in your task workbook, that's one of the first things I want you to do, is just go and write down like 3 things that you do again and again and again in your business and that you don't enjoy doing, or like maybe you're not very good at it, or maybe it just takes ages. And then next to each of those 3 tasks, write out how long does it take you per month? If that's something that you're doing every single day, it might be quite a long time per month. And then rate it on a 1 to 10 score of how much stress it causes you as well. And have a little think while you're doing that about how much, like where that stress is coming from. Is the stress coming because it's taking you too much time? Is the stress coming because you don't enjoy it? What is it that makes that task so hard to get on with? While you're doing that, I will move myself onto our level 2 slide, because now you know why. Now you need to know what you're going to outsource. And this is sort of the meat of what we're going to do here today. Knowing what you're going to outsource is really going to help you when it comes to finding somebody to outsource to. One of the biggest problems that I have on discovery calls is people rocking up to one and saying, I know I need help, but I don't know what I need help with. So if you can work out what you need help with, you can more carefully go and find somebody to help you with that. So I'm going to start talking through this now. And in your task book, the very next task in there, in fact, is, hang on, I'm on the wrong page. Give me 2 secs, guys. I wrote the wrong notes down. I'm going to go back to the task workbook because it's going to be loads easier for me to see. Yeah, right. So you're going to write down again, this time, like I would say over the summer, like when I talk to people on discovery calls, I say to them, go and write down everything that you do in your business regularly, all of the admin tasks that you do. But for today, I'd say like write down 3 of them, grab the ones out of the first task if you want to. That's nice and easy. But you're going to think of ones that you hate, ones that take ages, ones that you're not good at. And then for a bonus point, I want you to think about the tasks that only you can do in your business. Things that you could never hand off, even if you tried. I'm going to give you a little second to think about that now. Do feel free to drop any questions in the chat as you go along, and I will try to answer them. If you've already completed your book, or if you're not bothering with the workbook or whatever, then yeah, drop questions in the chat and I'll try and get on with them as we go along. Hopefully you're able to think of these relatively quickly. If you're not, then one of the things that I think can be very helpful at this point is to invest in a time tracker. You don't have to pay for one. I use one called Clockify, which you can use as a Chrome extension, and it's an app. There's another one called Toggle. There are billions of them out there that you can use. And spend 1 week in your business tracking every single piece of time that you spend in that business. And I mean everything. So track your lessons, yes, for sure, but also track all the other things that you do and scribble down what they are in that time tracker. You can do it on Post-it notes if you're like a non-digital person who prefers to be able to see things, and stick them all up on the wall in front of you and maybe mark them off when you do that task again, so you can see which ones you're returning to over and over again. Really quickly, you're going to start seeing tasks that are taking you quite a long time to do through the day. Yeah, Claire, I know exactly what you mean. Like, I'm the same, because I love my business, because I really appreciate being a freelancer, because I've been a teacher and I've been micromanaged before now, and I've suffered on like what so many teachers do in the past. Like, it's really hard to want to let go of these things, because while they might not be things that are integral to the running of your business, it might not be the thing that you set your business up for, it's still a part of your business and you love it. Like, I complain every month when I have to invoice, because my invoicing, now that I have a team, takes me a good half a day at the beginning of every month. And yeah, it is, I'm like, oh God, I could be doing my client work, I could be getting paid here, but actually, like, I kind of love it too, because it's part of the business, and I love being a part of the business, and I like doing it. I'm with you. But the question you have to ask yourself when it gets to this point is, like, number one, do you want to scale it at all? Like, if you don't want to scale, then take on the right number of clients for you so that you can get the admin done as well. And that is grand. And there are many people who do that. You've got to have a business that feels comfortable for you. So definitely that is an option. If you do want to scale, and I found really quickly that I did, as soon as I reached capacity, I realized I wanted to scale for two reasons. The first reason was I wanted to help more people. I hated saying no to people because I didn't have the time. And the second reason was, honestly, I wanted more money. I realized that there was no sort of glass ceiling going on. There was no ceiling at all in my freelance business. And I was free to earn as much money as I wanted to. And so I then had to give up some of those tasks that I really enjoyed doing or kind of enjoyed doing, but knew they were a part of my business, because you have to make that balance. And yeah, that's one of the choices that you make as a business owner, I guess. Oh my God, Georgina, I love your spreadsheets. If anybody has not seen Georgina's spreadsheets, it's beautiful. If there's a task that you hate, but only you can do it, there are definitely things that you could do. Like, you could develop a training, couldn't you? You could put time into training somebody up. And we are going to come back, Verity, to the idea of putting time into building a relationship and building what that's going to be for you. So we will come back to that. All right. Hopefully, everybody has now got a list of things that they could potentially outsource to somebody. One of the things that I will mention to you as well is on my website, if anybody wants, you can get to it from my LinkedIn. I shan't drop the link in here or anything, but on my website, there is a free download that you can get, which is how to find a good VA. And part of that is like 200 tasks that you could outsource to a VA. So if prompts are your thing and you quite like that sort of stuff, then you can find that there if you want to. All right, let's move on to the next slide then. Let's go to level 3. All right, now you've written down your tasks. You need to know what task suits what kind of freelancer. So what we're going to talk about here are the different kinds of freelancers that people like Tutors might outsource to. Virtual assistants are definitely high on that list, especially if you are a solo business owner or if you're just starting to expand out into a team. But there are other people out there too. OBMs tend to come along when you have more than one VA, because you need somebody to manage the VAs and, you know, the social media managers and all that. That tends to be, like, I would say people who get OBMs tend to be past the VAT threshold. Like, they tend to be 6-figure businesses, but that's not necessarily so. I've known people who do it earlier. You get social media managers, you can get web designers, you get graphic designers, like branding experts. All of these kinds of people are freelancers that you can outsource a particular task to. An OBM, sorry, is an online business manager. Julia's absolutely correct. So let's delve into VA OBM, because that tends to be the first thing. Like, VA first, sometimes then a social media manager. Often once you've got more than one VA, OBM happens. A VA is an implementer. A VA is somebody who's not a specialist in any of these things. Like, they're not a web designer, they're not a web developer, they don't write code, they don't know how to do like graphic design, they're not a specialist in anything, but they can roll up their sleeves and do most of the things in your business at a reasonable level. They're a good substitute for you when it comes to doing the business admin that you can, but probably shouldn't be doing. An OBM brings a level of strategy to it. An online business manager is somebody who can strategize with you and help you to direct the overall vision of your business. So with an OBM, what you would do is sit down together and discuss like what you want the business to do this year and how you might strategically make that happen. Set goals with, and then the OBM's job is to push that forward to the whole of the team. So, you know, how many VAs you've got, the graphic design, make sure that everybody's on the same page, and then project manage that for you, essentially. So yeah, more of a level of strategy comes with a VA, an OBM, sorry. Your VA, you point them in a direction and set them off, and off they'll go. Often people get confused between VA and social media manager as well, I think. Like, I often get people saying to me, well, why can't you just do my social media? And my question is, we can. Like, if you tell me that you want me to create for you 3 social media posts a week and tell me about what you want them to be, but like, we can do that for you 100%, but the strategy of it has to come from you, because we're not there to do the strategy. We're there to be pointed in a direction and told where to go, what to do. Whereas your social media manager, like I have a social media manager, and I get from my social media manager, I get the expertise. Like, I don't love social media. I know it's an important part of my business. I'm not interested enough in the algorithms and what link, like I tend to hang out on LinkedIn. Like, I don't really care like what LinkedIn's looking at, like whether it wants a picture, whether it wants a graphic. I don't care to know about hashtags, like all of that stuff. I just want some stuff to go out on LinkedIn, and Kerry helps me to do that. But she brings the expertise. She knows things that I don't. A VA doesn't necessarily know things that you don't, although my agency does bring a level of knowledge because we work with loads of other tutors. So there are important differences that you should also know about the difference between a freelancer and somebody who's an employee. A freelancer is a business owner in their own right. They are not employed by you. And that's a really important thing, especially when it comes to tax law. There's a thing, and I should have written it down. I can't remember what it is, but it's to do with if you employ a freelancer and they're not working with anybody else and they're only working with you, then there can be a tax thing whereby they're like an employee by any other name and they can claim things from you like maternity leave and stuff. So it is important to understand that difference. IR35, thank you, William, you're exactly right. IR35 is exactly the thing. It's really hard to understand. I do not profess to particularly. I work with enough different people that IR35 is not an issue for me or for any of my team members. But there are other things that are advantages to working with a freelancer. Things like you don't have to pay their pension. You don't have to pay them holiday pay. You don't need the maternity leave. Sick pay is not a thing for a freelancer. Like, if I don't do the work, if I'm not feeling well one week, I had COVID 3 weeks ago, as everybody who follows me online knows, because I complained about it for the following 2 weeks. If I don't work, I don't get paid. That's how freelancing works. So that's a big advantage when you need flexibility. The other good thing about a freelancer is notice periods are often a lot shorter. Like when you work with a VA ad hoc, there's no notice period for us. If it's just ad hoc hours, you want to stop, you stop. You want to pause, you pause. And even when you're on retainer hours with us, it's only a month's notice if you ever need to pause or stop. With employees, there are statutory things that you have got to understand and you've got to meet, and that's changing, I think, now that the new government's in as well, certainly to do like trial periods and stuff. I haven't looked into it a lot, but there are other things like that. There are also advantages to having employees, and if your business is big enough and there's enough admin and it's consistent enough, then an employee might be something that you would look at. But for the purposes of this talk, we're going to think about freelancers. There is a task on the sheet. It's one that you could quite happily do yourself. Like, I just put like maybe 5 task examples in there for you to have a little think about whether that would be a VA task, an OBM task, or somebody else, another freelancer, or whether it's something that absolutely belongs to you. You can have a look at that. You are very welcome to come and find me afterwards and ask me questions if there is any that you're not sure about. In the meantime, because I can see it's past and I want at least 10 minutes at the end of this, and preferably 15, to ask questions, we're going to move on to the how much. So there are a few different things for you to think about here, and it's not as clear cut as you might think. When I outsourced to Sarah Jane, it was very clear to me that it was a business decision that made sense, because I pay Sarah Jane, I pay Sarah Jane £40 and she just comes in on a Saturday. I don't care how long she takes. As long as my house is clean, that is worth £40 to me. But I know that I've only got, I think it usually takes her about 2.5 hours to get through the house. I know that if I sit down and work for 1 hour, I earn £35. So an hour and a half, it all balances up really easily for me. I make a profit. If I sit and work while Sarah Jane is cleaning, I will be in profit by the time Sarah Jane has finished. That can be true of a VA. So virtual assistants usually charge at the moment in between £30 and £35 an hour. You can find cheaper ones, and it's really important to understand that there are different levels of VA. I've got a blog about this, which I will send to Julius afterwards so that he can share it on if he needs to. You can find VAs incredibly cheap on race to the bottom sites like Fiverr and stuff like that, and they definitely have a place. The reason that they can afford to charge so little is because often they're working in different countries where cost of living is very different. So there are advantages to that. Paying somebody £7 an hour, like if you're ethically okay with that and it's good for them and the way that they live, that is brilliant. It means that you can get a lot done. But often you're looking at somebody who's in the Philippines or in Southeast Asia or somewhere like that, and there can be a language barrier to that. So asking somebody like that to write social media posts for you might not be, if you're a tutor and the way that the language is expressed and stuff like that is important, because you need to look like somebody who can formulate a sentence in English as your first language. That might not be okay. So you can definitely think about outsourcing to a cheaper VA, and I know many tutors who do. The sorts of things that you would hand over, though, you'd have to make sure that they weren't things that suffered from those disadvantages, like time zone being one of them, like trying to have meetings with somebody when they're on the opposite side of the world to you and stuff like that. So things like copy paste jobs, like really pure, simple, like, I mean, if you've got old social media that's all set up in a table and you wanted them to just recycle it for you into whatever social media scheduling app you've got going on, and they have enough of an understanding of what to schedule and when, that seems like it would be fine. The content's already written. There's no language barrier in there. You just need to make sure that you explain to them how to find what they need. The second level of VA is somebody who generally works in the UK. Sometimes they're in the US as well. We're around the £30-35 an hour mark. Actually, because I went through the VAT threshold this month, I'm now more expensive than that, but £35 an hour excluding VAT, let's call it that. The advantages that you've got with that are you've got somebody who has an understanding of English as a third language, who's in your time zone and therefore can meet in general. The other advantage, like especially for a team like ours, is like you can find VAs who work in all sorts of niches. Like there's one for everybody, really. Like we work in the education business niche. So we work with tutors, consultants, resource providers, like people who create courses, all that sort of stuff. But like I know a VA who works for undertakers. Like that's her niche. Like, you know, a thing for every hole, whatever it is. I don't know what the saying is, but yeah, construction industry VAs. There are many who work in industries that you can find, and therefore they've got like a back knowledge of what that industry is like and the sorts of tasks that they might be doing and the sorts of software that people in that industry tend to work in. And that can be a real advantage as well. Disadvantage, they're more expensive on the face of it, but because you're not paying maternity leave, you're not paying sick leave, you're not paying pension, blah, 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 actually we work out cheaper than an employee. So we are pretty good. The third level is, in my blog, this is all related to ketchup, so you can see where my sort of level of thinking is. These they're like the Stokes ketchup, you know, the really posh one that's got garlic in it or something like that as well, and it's got lumps of tomato in it still. These are VAs who've chosen to specialize very carefully into something, almost to the point where they're no longer a VA. So OBMs probably fall under that sort of milieu, like they still do VA things, but actually they're a bit of a project manager too, and they have some strategy going on as well. I fall under that milieu when it comes to doing active campaign work, which is an email marketing software, because I've worked in that for 3 years, and I would class myself as a specialist. For my active campaign work, like my prices start at £60 an hour and go up from there depending on what you need. So you can look to different freelancers to do different things. And you can see now why understanding the type of task that you need to outsource is now going to help you to really hone in on, like, not just I need a VA, but also I need a VA who can do this kind of stuff. Therefore, you know, the Fiverr VAs are out of the question. Now what you need to do is work out what you can afford. And in general, like, it's hard to do it because we don't often have like a return on investment that you can see in that way. You're literally, what we're doing is just taking time off your hands. If you can sit and tutor while we're doing something, you're paying us £35 an hour and you're charging, you know, you're getting £70 for the group that you're doing, you can definitely afford us. there's no question. If I'm charging you £35 an hour and you're charging a student £35 an hour, it's less obvious how much you can afford to do. What I would say to you then is you've got to look at what gives you value. Like for me, the value of Sarah Jane is not just in the fact she comes and cleans my house. It's the fact that I get a Saturday out with my family that I wouldn't do otherwise, because I work so hard during the week. Saturdays have to be my cleaning days. If Sarah Jane does that, I get to go out and hang out with my family. And if there's value in that for you, then a VA could give you value. And at that point, you've just got to work out what you would be willing to pay for that kind of value. Overall, though, there is a task on your sheet that gives you a vague idea of what you might do. So I would put into it your hourly rate when you're doing the most valuable thing that you do. So whether that's running one of your bigger groups or anything like that, pop that in there. Then stick in how long you take doing that task, and then multiply those together. All right, so if you reckon you could fit 5 of those groups in per month, multiply it up, and that's your potential lost revenue, the revenue that you're not making because you're having to do your admin instead. Then do the same with a VA, give them £35 an hour at the top end, £30 an hour, sometimes 28 at the bottom. Multiply it by that number again and see. If you're in profit, then happy days. If you're not, then you need to think slightly more carefully. But it's still not necessarily precluding you from hiring somebody, but you definitely need to think about it really carefully. Again, I can answer more questions about it. It is pure maths, and I am a key stage 1 teacher, so number bonds to 10 is what I can do, and maths makes me very uncomfortable. All right, in the last 5 minutes, what I want to go through is unicorns. This is like the final level of finding somebody to outsource to. So in my example, I'm going to assume, because I know more about it, that you have realized that the person that you want to outsource to first is a virtual assistant. That's fine, but there are a lot of virtual assistants in this world, and finding the right one for you is not easy. Now, again, I have got a much more in-depth thing in the booklet on my website that helps you to work this out. But on your sheet, you have got a little thing that will help you to just start to strategically think this through. Emotions come into it as well, but you need to make sure that the practical things are covered first. So if you take those 3 tasks from up above that you wanted to outsource, I want you to think about what skills are necessary. Like, what does your VA need to be able to do those tasks and do them well as you, if not better, we hope. Then I want you to write down like 3 qualities or ethoses or values that you or your business have that it would be absolutely essential that anybody who works with you aligned with. It might be like, for me, anybody I work with has to be, pardon language, bullshit free. Like, I can't do subtext. I'm not good at subtext. So I need to work with people who understand that and are able to give me. Thank you very much for coming, Greg. Like, hopefully you'll be able to catch the end on the replay. I need somebody who's going to give me things in their plainest terms. I don't want people who try to wrap things up with a boat, because I just won't pick up on that. I'll pick up on the nice language and not the meaning underneath it. So that's something that's incredibly important to me. So it could be something like that, a personal quality of yours that somebody you worked with would need to align with. It might be something in your business. Like if your business is all about education and you know that you want somebody who has an understanding of education and who feels like you do, that education is the most important thing in the world. Number one, call us, we are your people. But number two, like write it down, because there are many VAs out there who aren't a part of my team, but who used to work in education. You might be able to find them. Just because they don't specialize in edu businesses doesn't mean they're not out there. It's really important that you work out the qualities of that person that you want, because then when you get on a call with them, you can be assessing for those qualities, not only the practical skills that they bring, but the type of person they are. You'll pick that up in the first 3 minutes of the call, I'm telling you now. But if you don't know that you're looking for those things, you can't spy them. And then it all goes off emotion, and that is not the best way to do it. Then I want you to think about your preferred communication style. That kind of comes into what I was talking about before. But yeah, like, how do you best communicate? Like, I have clients who will not email me. They will only WhatsApp me. It's fine. Like, for me, that's okay. I don't mind, because I've got WhatsApp on the desktop. I copy paste it into my task manager. Things don't tend to get forgotten about unless I'm super busy. But if you're a person who likes to have everything written down by email, or if you're the person who works in Facebook Messenger, if you're a person for whom voice notes are the thing that, like, voice notes are a real sort of deal breaker, I think. Like, my sister won't let me send her voice notes because she says they're passive aggressive, and it means that she worries that I'm sending her something terrible. But if she's at work, she can't listen to it until she gets to a break. Whereas me, I love voice notes, especially voice notes in Slack, because it transcribes them underneath and it just makes life so much easier. So think about your communication style as well. And then the final thing that I would say, when you're looking for a unicorn, think about collaborations you've had in the past. If you've never outsourced before, that's fine. You've been working for quite a long time. Like, you have worked with other people. Think about other people who you've worked with and things that went well and why that might have gone well, and things that didn't go as well. Collaborations you had that didn't come off. Why was that? Like, what was it about it that didn't work? You probably find out some things about yourself as well, but you may find out things about people that you work with too. Once you've got all of that, be prepared to take your time now finding the right person. Now you are going to stretch out into your network, because personal recommendations are the #1 best way to go and find somebody. So now go and ask all of your tutor friends, I'm looking for a VA. Who do you know who you can personally recommend as being good? And think really carefully about where you go and ask that question, because if you go and drop it into one of those massive tutor groups, what you'll get is a load of people who want to be helpful and they know a name, but actually they've never worked with that people, and you'll get 500 comments underneath that will tell you a billion different names. You're not interested in that. You're interested in asking people who you know have worked with a VA before, or a OBM, or a social media manager, or a graphic designer, whatever it might be, and have personal experience that they were good. They still might not be your unicorn, because what made that person good for that person might not be you, but it gives you a better place to start. Oh, Georgina, I am yours. You and me in the spreadsheets. It's a love affair made in heaven. And that will help it to go faster. But yeah, be prepared for it to take time. What I would heartily suggest is, do not jump in with both feet and take the first person you talk to. Shop around, because when you find the right person, I promise you, it is magic. It has happened for me quite a few times, not with all my clients, but when you, like, even some clients I continue to work with for quite a while, and we're not each other's unicorn, but what I can do is fine. But with the people for whom you are the unicorn, with the person you click with, oh my God, guys, it's amazing. And you become somebody who isn't like just a VA. you become a business partner. You become a sounding board. You become somebody who, because you know the business so well, you can be really proactive in it because you've worked in it for 6 months and you know how that business runs. So you feel fine to go to the person who runs it and say, I've had this thought about how we could do this differently. Oh, Verity, yes, I know, Lucy's amazing. This is the magic that can happen. So hold out for it and don't let yourself sort of just go with a person who does it fine. Like, try and find that magic. And this is your bonus round really now, is building that relationship. So when you find the person, once again, prepare for it to take time to build that relationship. They're not going to get it right in the first month. That first month, prepare, like, that's my little first thing there. Look, see time. Actually help me with those. It takes at least 2 months to get to know a business properly. And for the first month, you're going to be annoyed because that person, like, in our agency, we're not afraid to ask questions because we know that's how we grow, by clarifying, by checking. But you're going to spend quite a lot of time going, oh, I could have done this faster myself. And it's true, you could have that first time. What you have to think is big picture. 6 months down the line, there will be no more questions about that task and I won't have to do it. And you will save a lot of time. The next thing is to put some time into writing up processes. It will save you a lot of time handing over to a VA if you can scribble down an SOP, which is a standard operating procedure. It doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It could just be a Loom video with a screen recording of you doing it. But that can really speed things up and help people to take on processes. And the final thing is communicating. What I say to all of my team members is, you have got to hold open those lines of communication and have a growth mindset. So as a team, we are always asking for feedback, maybe to the point where it's a bit annoying at the beginning, I don't know. But my philosophy is, and most good VAs who you'll find out there, in fact, most good freelancers will ask for feedback and say, was this okay? What did you like? What could we do better next time? Because growth mindset tells us that the mistakes are where the growth happens. And so if we do something and it was all right, but it wasn't amazing, and you kind of wish this had happened and you never say anything to us, we're just going to do it the same way next time because we thought it was okay. Whereas if you say, I loved this, and this that you did, but next time when you do this bit, can you do it like this? Like, we're all ex-teachers. We're all amazing at developing ourselves and getting better as we go along. That's what we do. So that is the final thing that I would say to you about that. I will plop this back on at the end while we're doing the roundup, but I am astonished that I have brought this in on time. It never happens. You may now ask me questions. Thank you, Julius. I'm sorry, was that really long?
Thanks, Katie. No, that was brilliant. Really, really interesting, very thorough, and I have no doubt there's going to be a lot of questions for you. So we've got about 10 minutes left now. So if anyone wants to ask any questions now, that's brilliant. If not, we can always pass on Katie's contact details as well afterwards, and I'm sure she'd be happy to help. But
oh, absolutely. Yeah. You can always grab me on LinkedIn. I see one from Claire. Would a good VA be proactive in making a control freak like me hand things over? To an extent, I work with quite a few control freaks and I understand them because I too live in control freak land. Like, Toby asks me every single night if he can help me to cook the tea because he knows I've worked all day and he knows that it would be really helpful. And I will say to him, yes, cut the carrots, please, Toby. And he'll start to do it. And immediately I go, stop it, you're doing it wrong. And I take it back. So I understand that. I think, yes, a VA, especially an experienced VA, because they know the types of tasks they do for other people, they can suggest things to take off your hands. And that would definitely happen with somebody who you've been working with for a month or two, because you start to see all those processes. And especially if you're having regular meetings once a month, maybe more, because you pick up from what people are saying, like what they need and what they're doing and what's causing them time. It gives you an opportunity to go, you know, like I could do that for you if you wanted. Let's work out a process. That's absolutely fine. They could do it. I'm not saying that all VAs are, but we try really hard. I think as teachers, it's a teacher thing, isn't it? Like, if you see something and you think it could be done better, it's very hard to leave that alone and just sit on your hands. So yeah, certainly all of my team do that. But the other thing that I would say about that, Claire, is you have to be actively working that on that as well. And it takes time. So you have to push yourself, but also be kind. I've got one client who I've worked with for 3 years now, and she is a massive control freak. Handing off anything is hard for her. And it has taken her this long to hand off. Only, like, there are still a million other things I know I could do for her, but I have to move at her pace, and I can't push her any further forwards than than she wants to go. So it's definitely a teamwork thing. But if you're open to people, if you say to your VA, I am open to you being proactive. If you see things that you think you could be doing for me, tell me about it. Any VA worth their salt will try the hardest to do that for you, Claire. Absolutely.
Perfect. Thanks, Katie. There's also Nicola's got a question as well. Where would I start to search for a VA if recommendations were not working? Google is a rabbit hole.
Google is 100% a rabbit hole. So there are a few things you can do. I still say, number one, 100% best thing to do is go off a personal recommendation. Do not take, like, don't go into a Facebook group and ask where, you know, you'll get a million suggestions, because there'll be people who just, like, it's human nature, isn't it? You want to help and you know a name. You may never have worked with them before. They might be the worst person in the world, but you'll put that name in because you knew that name and you wanted to help. So definitely ask people who you know have worked with VAs before. If that's not possible for you, there are a few things that I would suggest that you do to make sure that anybody who you talk to is at least going to be as good as you can possibly get from, you know, licking your finger and sticking it in the air and just seeing what sticks. Number one, there is a society for virtual assistants, and they do have, like, if you want to be a part of that and display their badge on your website, you have to have some bare minimum things, which is professional indemnity insurance. I think you have to be registered with the ICO as well. All of these are things I would say are absolute bare minimum. Never work with anybody who doesn't present you with a contract. Absolutely not, because it doesn't protect you and it doesn't protect them. And it's just a really bad way to start working together. Shared expectations and boundaries when you begin together is really important. So you could look for Society of Virtual Assistants on their website, or ask them if they're a member of the Society of Virtual Assistants. The other sort of things that you can look for on the website are things like awards can, to an extent, be helpful. Like, I mean, we're a multi-award winning team. We've got, like, I won the, is it FSB? Freelancer award this year, and a couple of years ago we won VA with a small team. I think what you're looking for are signs that they are committed to their business and not just doing it as a side hustle. Like, that's what you're not somebody who's going to, you know, have a problem and ghost you 2 weeks in. You've got to look and prepare yourself. So definitely ask for a contract, ask to see their ICO registration number, and ask to see proof of professional indemnity insurance, unless they've already got all that on their website, and any decent VA should do. Those are really good places to start. And then go talk to them. Know what it is you're looking for. Have your questions pre-prepared. And then you can go into a call, and in 20 minutes, you can get some really good information about whether you think they're going to be a good person to work with. Yeah.
Great answer. Thanks, Katie. And then there's a couple of people inquiring about the best way to contact you. Is it through LinkedIn, or is it, would you like to email in the chat?
I didn't want to, because I didn't want this to be a pitchy thing, because I don't like pitchy things and I'm not good at them. No, that's LinkedIn, Katie. Try again. There is a book a call button in there. If you want to do that, I am going to close off discovery calls probably at the end of next week, because we're going into summer. Most of my team are going and doing things, and I don't want to try and onboard people when it's not a prime time. Like, it's so important those first few months, and I don't want it to be like a bit scrappy because people aren't around, or you know, people are at capacity. I definitely need to take on at least 2 new team members as well over the summer. So I am around, but yeah, God's honest, at the moment we are absolutely full to the gunnels. So I will probably, I'll probably wait until the end of next week and then take that book a call, and then it'll be a wait list, and I'll be in touch in September. Okay. And also, if you want me, I'm on LinkedIn. That's the place I live. Facebook makes me very uncomfy. You can find me easily on LinkedIn.
Great. Thanks, Katie. And so we've got a couple of minutes left. does anyone else have any questions for Katie now? You can either pop your hand up and ask it in person or pop it into the chat.
Oh, that QR code, by the way, goes to the Finding the Right VA guide, which has some more sort of structured activities specifically for VAs. This was trying to be really broad, that workbook. Everybody's sick of me talking.
Yeah, not at all. That was a really good chat, Katie. Really good presentation. I'm sure everyone found it really useful as well. So we'll pull the meeting to a close now. It was a really good session. And if anyone wants to join any of the other TTA summer sessions throughout the summer, please check out the schedule. There's loads going on in July and August. So just one final big thanks to Katie. It was a brilliant presentation, and if anyone has any questions, please follow up afterwards. Thank you.